And welcome to the Look In with Liv first video. I'm very excited. Please do ignore the very low budget kind of situation we have going on here. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. I don't even know how long I'm gonna keep this up for. This is really something I want to pursue and keep going ahead with because I love the Housewives, and as you can see by the title of the video, today we are looking into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 6 Episode 5. Now you may be thinking, this is your first video, why are we not, I don't know, starting from the beginning or starting from the first episode of Season 6? I mean, I'm going to be real with you guys, we got to keep it up to date, okay? There are quite a few of us, and when we say us, there are quite a few of us out here making videos on Salt Lake City, and I feel like you got to keep up, you know, babe, you got to keep up to date. So that is exactly what we are doing. And yeah, let's get into this week's episode. So where do I start? I mean, this episode was a lot, okay? There was a lot going on, a lot of different characters, you know, all of our faves. I would just say, to start with, I love everybody in this cast. I think this is one of the best Housewives casts we've seen in a long time, you know, since the days, like the early days of Beverly Hills, the early days of Atlanta, maybe sort of midway through with Atlanta, but no, this is one of the best casts, okay? And they deliver every single time. They deliver every week. And it is no wonder that it's really becoming that franchise. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen, but I think they won the Reality Stars of the Year from US Weekly, I believe. And they did that whole Desperate Housewives inspired photo shoot. I mean, iconic. What else can we say? That was absolutely iconic. Brittany's still not there, bless her. She's still holding out for that snowflake. But no. So my point is here, they are really the stars at the moment. They're really those girls. They're doing that thing. So shout out to everybody. Now let's get into the episode. So the great majority of this episode is centered around the ongoing beef between Angie K and Lisa Barlow. Now, I just have one thing to say before we really get into this. Where did this particular drama come from? Now, I know they had that brief spat a few weeks ago when Lisa did her liability luncheon. I don't think that was the official title, but that was the vibe I was getting. I don't know if you guys remember or saw when Lisa had all those clipboards, you know, kind of talking about her lawsuit, saying dismissed, even though we know that's not quite entirely the case, but I digress. This beef is not going anywhere, and I think for the greater part of this season, we are going to see this drama just unfold and kind of go further, go deeper. What am I even talking about? These two ladies had such a strong relationship. I mean, if we think back to like the earliest seasons when Angie was a friend, you know, when she was introduced by Lisa Barlow. I mean, I think I believe she first appeared, it was actually in season 2, you know, when they were doing the whole like fresh wall photo shoot for Jack, her son, his business that he's doing. This does come up in the episode. We will get onto that. His products that were dusty. Not the dust. Anyway, his dusty products that were removed from Angie's salon. Sorry for okay, I just want to say now, I do apologize for the kind of unstructured nature of this. I will in future, I think, try and sort of go in a more straightforward structure, talking about beginning to end, but I can't do that here. Especially with this week's episode. It was a lot. And that is my overall thoughts of this episode before I like really dive into it. It was too much. That was just too much drama this week for me personally. Now we love to see it. We love to see the girls get into it. I mean, you know, the other week's episode when Bronwyn and Lisa had their little back and forth. Bronwyn kind of ate you up on that one, Lisa. Let's be real. She did that. I can't remember. Is her name Amy? Yeah, it was like at the party for that, the girl they're calling the Utah socialite. She don't want nothing to do with the show, let's be real. But, yeah, they got into it. That was fun. That felt like a genuine moment. Something for me this week, which I think a lot of people have also kind of resonated with, is that it felt a little bit fake. There was something about the fight this week particularly between Angie and Lisa that just felt a little much, a little staged, like, what are we doing? Because the whole 45 minutes of this episode, I kid you not, was centered around this lunch. Now, what I will say, this was a very cute lunch. Everything was beautiful. I honestly can't quite remember where it was, but I do remember that Mary gave us some fun facts as she likes to do. Now, listen, I love me some Mary Cosby. Let me tell you, she is just the best. Okay, as I was saying, I love Mary. I think she's amazing. Okay, now she's had her moments in the past. You know, she's been in controversy. I've been like, oh, Mary, why'd you say that? You know, I think as we all have. But since her return, her like proper return in season 5, there is a shift. There is just such a positive, willing to participate kind of energy that I don't think we'd really seen from her as much in the past. She's an integral part. But I digress. What were we talking about? Oh yes. So Mary throughout the show has liked to just drop in these little facts about, often to do with true crime. You know, we've had, I believe, what was it? She was telling us about her dad, I believe, who was neighbors with Jeffrey Dahmer. I think it was Jeffrey Dahmer. I might be wrong. It was someone along those lines when he lived in Milwaukee. Now, I can't quite remember, honestly, what she said in this episode, but I believe there was some kind of murder situation that had happened at this house or this restaurant or this venue that Whitney was hosting the lunch at. But let me just go back to what we were talking about. It was a beautiful venue. It was really beautiful. Whitney did a great job. One thing I will say, I like Whitney's orange hair. Like, I wasn't convinced at first, but I think it's a good look for her. Although she has gone back to blonde now, I believe. But I digress. Beautiful women. Anyway, now let's get into the meat of the situation. What actually happened? So I believe the drama started with Meredith. Now, if you guys recall last week's episode, Meredith and Angie met for a little lunch, and Angie was telling Meredith some stuff that went down a couple of years ago when Meredith and Angie were kind of at the height of their beef and their drama, particularly over the rumors about Sean, which, listen, I don't agree with any of that. I think it's wrong to speculate on sexuality, as, you know, we just shouldn't be doing that. It's 2025, come on. But no, I digress. They had their little lunch, and Angie was basically telling Meredith that at the time that they were having their drama, to spill some stuff on Meredith, and that there was a lot to apparently be said and to be spoken about, particularly regarding her marriage, like extramarital affairs and things of that nature, which, listen, do I believe that conversation took place between Lisa and Angie? Yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And listen, my only, I guess, problem with this was Angie's timing. Maybe it did seem like a strange time for Angie to be telling Meredith. Now, I know they hadn't got along in the past and they were still kind of having their problems last year, you know, Angie getting kicked out of the bar mitzvah for the slutty hair comments. If we all recall that. We all remember the high body count hair moment. But they hadn't really got along since. But we did see at the season 5 reunion, they were starting to make some kind of reconciliation. But so we can see that they're now in an okay place. So anyway, back to this week's episode. Meredith brings up this conversation and she asks Lisa, she says, was this true? Did this conversation happen between you and Angie? Did you tell her to bring up things that happened in my past? Things that, you know, I obviously wouldn't want spoken about on the show. And Lisa doesn't give a straight answer. As far as I'm aware, it kind of seemed she was sort of not trying to deflect from the situation, but her attention went immediately to Angie. Now that is very telling in itself, because if you guys have watched the episode, you'll know that Meredith doesn't even mention Angie's name. Meredith just says, I've heard from someone that you were trying to bring about rumors about me and my marriage a couple of years ago. But Lisa turns straight to Angie. Now, don't quote me on this exactly, but I believe she said something along the lines of, when she looks at Angie, she says something about Satan would know, or the devil would know, something along those lines. Now, let me tell you, if that is not very telling that this conversation did take place, I don't know what is. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you. But that conversation most certainly happened between Miss Lisa Barlow and Miss Angie Gay. Now, this is where things go off the rails, and bear in mind, we are like maybe 5-10 minutes into the episode at this point, and from this point forwards, it is carnage, okay? Angie goes in on Lisa. She starts talking about how she's made up rumors about everyone and how she's tried to bring things up about everyone. Now, listen, I can't say for sure. Obviously, none of us can, but based on, you know, past events that have happened, it does seem to be that Angie's probably telling the truth here. But this is where my problem comes, and as I was sort of discussing earlier, that a lot of this episode felt a bit much. There was a lot going on, and part of that, for me, was based off of the way that Angie went about the situation. Now, I love me some Angie K. Last season, she was her center snowflake, first seat reunion, and she deserved that. She was very much the height of the drama. She gave funny moments. She gave shady moments. She really did deliver. And I feel like on the back of that, she's doing a lot. Okay, she is doing the absolute most. And listen, while I definitely see you got to stick up for yourself in these fights. You know, these women are intense. Okay, like I cannot imagine being in that situation. I'm not really a confrontational kind of person, or at least I try not to be. So I don't know how I'd be in that situation, but she was doing the most. And you know Angie likes to come with a prop. So of course she came with her little, I think it was like this box, and she had things in the past that Lisa had given to her to give back to her, because it was very clear that they were not in a good place. And this included things, I believe, I don't know what was in there to be honest, but some of Electra's horse toys. I think maybe Lisa had given Angie to give to Electra these little horse figurines, but Angie had all of that in a box that she was about to give over to Lisa. I think she did. And listen, it was a lot. It was just a lot, and it felt unnecessary at times. And this conflict just spirals throughout the whole episode, and it does mainly go between Angie and Lisa. Now, if we want to talk about the other cast members, we know that Bronwyn and Lisa have had their problems. They did have the lunch, I believe, in last week's episodes. They are trying to work through things, and I think we could see some resolution there. I don't know if they'll ever get back to being close friends, although according to Lisa, they weren't ever close friends anyway, but they do seem to be getting in a better place. Anyway, Bronwyn was not particularly involved in this argument. Heather wasn't particularly involved, but one thing I will say about Miss Heather is I think the tables are turning. I think Heather is starting to turn away from the Lisa Barlow train, and I don't know how I feel about it, because I always felt that the relationship between Heather and Lisa, particularly that we saw in season 5, it definitely felt like an alliance. That is what I saw. Like, as a viewer, let me know what you guys felt about that. But for me, it definitely felt like some kind of alliance they had going on, that they maybe weren't particularly that close as friends. But whatever the situation was, whatever the situation is, it does seem that Heather is starting to see another perspective, maybe more along the lines of Angie and Whitney and Bronwyn. And it's interesting to see, to say the least. But I do feel like it's a bit shady of Heather to kind of turn on Lisa in this way. I mean, particularly when, you know, I can't remember what episode it was. It was on this season, but I believe, Angie was round Heather's house. She's deciding what coat of paint to use for her new office. Boring. No one cares. I'm sorry, Heather. Where's your storyline, babe? We can talk about that. But no, Heather was saying quite a bit about how she felt what Lisa was saying, particularly when Lisa made the comments like, I'm above all of you, or she said something along the lines of like, I'm different to all of you, or like, no, that was it. My life is very different to all of yours, which I don't think Heather liked, and I don't think that's particularly true either. I think anyone can see that. I mean, come on now, they're both on the show, they both have businesses, they're both doing their thing, so I don't really know about that one. But I will say I have felt that if you are a true friend to Lisa, that kind of going behind her back like this is a bit strange. But I digress. This episode for me in regards to Heather kind of showed that she's still going down this journey of, I don't want to say distancing herself from Lisa. I don't think that's what we're seeing, but she's definitely looking at things from a different perspective, is what I'll say on that. Now, back to the conflict itself. This just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And throughout the episode as well, the other sort of, I guess, B storyline that we're seeing is Whitney has brought out this, I was almost going to say therapist, or like a shaman, or like a reader. Okay, she brought in like this psychic reader, I believe. I don't know where he came from, but he gives each of the women their own little reading. Now, the first of these readings we see is between himself and Brittany. Now, one thing I will say about Brittany is she has grown on me a lot. I don't know what you guys feel, but for me in season 5, I wasn't feeling her. You know, it was her first season. A lot of the drama with her has revolved around her relationship between Jared, and then the lack of a relationship between her and her daughters, which, Brittany, come on. Like, we gotta pick our children over our men. That's just how it should be. That's my opinion. I think most people would agree with that. But no, Brittany is growing on me, is something I will definitely say. And let me know how you guys feel about Brittany and where she's kind of going. But I think she is starting to change. I like the role she kind of plays. She is sort of like the, I guess, funny, I don't want to say annoying friend, but she does have a purpose in the group. And I think she is definitely becoming a bigger part. I wouldn't be surprised, as with the way things are going now, if she got a snowflake next year, which I think she wants. Come on, Brittany. What about me? What about me? She wants that snowflake, and I think it's maybe time we let her try it out. But no, so we were talking about the reading she was being given, and she does kind of discuss the sort of relationship she has with Jared. Boring, tired, like, girl, he does not want you, from what I've seen. We could be wrong. I'm waiting to be proven wrong. But no, she's talking about the relationship between herself and Jared, and then the one between her and her children. And it seems to me that she's trying to work toward a better relationship with her children, which is amazing, which is wonderful. We love to see it. That would be the storyline that we want to see from Brittany. I think we've had enough of this fake relationship. Sorry, Brittany, love you. But whatever this is, we want to see the relationship between you and your children grow and develop. And I can't wait for the day we see it. Hopefully soon. Maybe this season. I'm kind of thinking more next year by the way things seems and the trailer, whatever. But I'm looking forward to seeing their side. And like I say, I think she's a fun character. She's needed on this cast. Maybe that's wrong. She's a good part of this cast. And I think it is stronger because of her. Now, everyone sort of gets their readings too. Heather kind of has the discussion about where, you know, sort of she is. We've seen in the previous episodes that her youngest daughter is now off to college, which is going to leave her an empty nester, as she points out in her tagline. And she's not really sure what she's doing next. So she kind of gets this reassurance from the guy that, you know, I see good things coming for you. You're heading towards a better place, yada, yada, yada. That's whatever. Because in the background, we still have this fight between Lisa and Angie continuing on and on and on and on and on. It did get tiring. As I already mentioned. Now, before I kind of end this episode, I know this has been very brief. Like I say, I promise in the future we'll be a bit more structured. I will have some more points to actually go over. I think this is more just a reactionary kind of discussion today. But I want to touch on the kind of rift that we're starting to see between Mary and Angie. Now, if you guys recall to last season, Mary and Angie became really close. That was honestly one of my favorite parts of last season, is seeing their relationship develop, you know, from Mary saying in season 4, she was like, who is Angie? Very funny. We love Mary. But no, seeing their relationship last year, I think, was definitely one of the highlights for myself. I know it was for a lot of you too. Let me know how you felt about that. When they had their first kind of rift last season, I believe it was the finale episode in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, beautiful trip, wonderful, whatever. When they sort of had their reconciliation moment, that was very emotional. And when Mary was talking about her past. Anyway, I digress. That was just a very emotional moment, and I love that. I love that. But no, we're starting to see this kind of rift happen again. Basically, Mary, when they're having the fight, when Angie and Lisa are having their fight, she sort of goes over to try and be like the mediator. She says to Lisa, like, what's going on? Like, why are you letting this happen? Like, things along those nature. She wasn't particularly being like a friendly like alliance, but she was just trying to mediate the situation. And for for Angie, she kind of took that as, oh, so you're trying to be Lisa's friend. And I can't remember what she said. She said something along those lines to Mary, and understandably, I'm on Mary's side here. I'm going to make that very clear. She didn't like that. She's like, I'm trying to help the situation. I'm trying to calm things down and find resolution. But Angie was very, very turned on this, very charged this episode. My language, charged is the right word. You know, she had a lot of energy coming into this. She kind of kept that momentum the whole episode. And I think, like Mary says, she had this blind rage that Mary was trying to get through to both of them. And Angie didn't see this at the time. So now, unfortunately, we have started to see this bit of a rift in their relationship. We do know from, you know, Instagram posts and sort of the photo shoots and other interviews and things that they've been doing that Mary and Angie are thankfully now back in a better place. Yay! But it will be interesting to see how this sort of, I guess, mini conflict, rift, whatever you want to call it, kind of plays out. I really hope it's not for too long, because, you know, I personally love seeing them both together. I do blink a lot. I do apologize for that. But yeah, I really hope that we can kind of get over this soon. We know that next episode, Heather has organised this trip for the ladies. They're going to be doing the crossover with Below Deck. Now, I will just say I've never watched Below Deck. I can't even lie to you. I'm very much here for the Housewives. I might watch Below Deck. I'll probably watch the episode that they do, because I believe they're both doing an episode. So Salt Lake is doing an episode with the cast, and then Below Deck is doing an episode with the Salt Lake cast. So that's going to be interesting to see. I know, reading just a lot of the comments on the trailer and whatever, that people are very excited to see that. So I'm excited to see that too. You know, we always love seeing the girls on trips. We always get the best, the funniest, and the most dramatic moments. Season 4 reunion, reality Von Tease receives proof timeline. Hello. But yeah, that is what I have to say about this week's episode. And I just want to thank you all for looking into Salt Lake City Season 6 Episode 5 me once again. And I will see you next week to discuss the next episode. Now, just before I go, I will say the production value, we are going to improve. The quality of my discussion, we're going to improve. We are going to get there. But come along with me on this journey. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more, I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a like, consider subscribing, leaving a comment, tell me what you thought. And